boys and girls, welcome back. I hope you're all doing well. Today's riddle, I almost said the book first, is Why Was the Broom Late? Think about it. Today is our last book we're doing in the series by Patricia Polacco, and it's called Just Plain Fancy. What do you think? Hey, that's my name on top. I think someone borrowed it. What do you think it's going to be about? Just plain fancy. Caleb and his two daughters hurried along Lancaster County Road in their buggy. Cars whizzed by them, but they paid them no mind. Clop, clop, clop went the horses' hooves on the pavement. Papa, Naomi asked, why don't we have a car like the English? It's not our way, child. We are in no hurry, he said as he drew up the reins and slowly directed the horse into their farmyard. When their father unharnessed and watered the horse, Naomi and Ruth skipped toward the hen house. The chickens were Naomi's responsibility. She saw to their feeding and watering as well as collecting of their eggs. Everything around here is so plain, Naomi complained. Our clothes are plain, our house is plain, even our chickens are plain. It would give me pleasure just once to have something fancy. Pshaw, Naomi, you oughtn't to say such things, little Ruth scolded. As Naomi and Ruth searched the field for eggs laid outside the hen house, they spotted a very unusual one nestled in the tall grass down the drive behind the hen house next to the road. This egg looks different from any I have ever seen, Naomi said. It's still warm. Let's put it in Henny's nest. This one needs to be hatched. She gently picked up the egg and eased it into her basket. Although it was a little bigger than Henny's other eggs and a little darker in color, Naomi gently tucked the egg into the nest while Henny and Ruth looked on. You're so good with chickens, Ruth chirped. I just know you're going to get your white cap this year. Mama says you're ready. Naomi was proud of her chickens and the way she raised them. The elders were coming for a working bee or frolic in the coming summer, and Naomi wondered whether her parents might present her with a white cap on that day. Her thoughts were interrupted by Ruth's voice. Ain't we pleasured, she said. You wanted something fancy, and now you've got it. You see, they're wearing blue caps. I guess having a white cap means something special. As the days passed, Naomi and Ruth checked Henny's nest constantly. Every day, they peered over the edge of the crib, watching for signs of cracks in the shells. Then one day, the eggs hatched. Look at the little chick from the fancy egg, Ruth squealed. The egg was fancy, inside and out, wasn't it? Said Naomi. Fancy? That's just what we'll name this chick. Fancy, 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 Ruth sang out as she jumped about. Naomi smiled and clapped her hands. All that afternoon, the girls stayed with Henny, watching and studying their special little chick. See, all the other chicks are kind of orange, and Fancy is different. That's the one they found in the field. What do you think Fancy's going to grow up to look like? Weeks passed. Henny's chicks grew quickly and were soon scratching around in the dirt. They had all lost their yellow down feathers and had grown bright white ones. All of them except Fancy. Fancy looked different from the others. There was no doubt about it. This chick wasn't plain. Can you tell which one's Fancy? One afternoon in the wash house, Naomi and Ruth overheard Aunt Sari talking to Cousin Hannah about a person in the neighboring Amish community. She dressed too fancy, Sari said. She had to be shunned. Is it wrong to be fancy, Naomi asked. Indeed, yes, snapped Hannah. We are plain folk. It is our laws. The Ordnung. We must be plain. What does shun mean? Ruth asked haltingly. Someone who is shunned is shamed in front of the elders. After that, friends and neighbors are instructed not to speak to that person. They are no longer one of us, Sarai answered with authority. Naomi and Ruth looked at each other and hurried outside to hang up the washing. Naomi felt bothersome inside. As soon as they were finished, the girls ran to the hen house. What are we gonna do? Ruth asked. Fancy is too fancy to be Amish. Then Fancy ruffled up his feathers and did something that took their breath away. Now this one's Fancy. It's giving you a clue. Look at the top of his head to tell you what kind of bird it might be. And what would a bird do that might go, or you might do that, take the breath away. We'll have to hide him now that we know what to do, Naomi said. The elders will be here for the frolic tomorrow. He'll be shunned, Ruth whispered. Maybe we will too. They put Fancy in another part of the hen house and locked the door. Still don't really have a clue about Fancy. The next morning, the neighboring Amish folk arrived for the frolic. The men and the boys helped add a stable onto the Vlelk's barn. They worked hard in the sun while the women folk cooked and gossiped. Naomi and Ruth helped serve the food, pour lemonade, and thread needles for the women who were quilting. This should have been a happy day for them, but the girls were not pleasured because they were sad and worried about Fancy. That looks like a fun time. When she had served the last ladle of lemonade, Naomi started toward the hen house. Just then she noticed the open front door. Before she could get there to shut it, Fancy darted out and ran toward the gathering, flapping out his wings. Oh no, Naomi called. This is all my fault. I wanted something fancy. I should have known better than to make that kind of wish. Tears ran down Ruth's cheeks when she saw what happened. Poor Fancy, she cried. Now he'll be shunned. What do you think is going to happen? Over, under, around, through. Naomi ran after Fancy, trying to catch her before anyone noticed. And at that time, Fancy decided to head straight for the elders. He flew at Martha, the oldest member of the gathering. Adjusting her glasses, she gasped as he flew over her head just before landing on the clothesline where the quilts were airing. Please don't shun him, Naomi cried. I did this. I made him fancy, she sobbed. At that moment, pleased with all the attention, Fancy ruffled his feathers and did for the guests what he had done for the girls in the hen house the day before. Those who were speechless were stunned. What do you think? You know what kind of bird it is? Fancy's right up here. The blue color kind of gives it away. Whoa, it's a peacock, a male peacock, because they have the beautiful feathers and back. Dry your tears, child. It was Martha who finally spoke. This isn't your doing. This is only God's handiwork. Only he could think of the colors like that. You mean you aren't going to shun him, Ruth asked? Only one can be shunned for going against the ways of our people, Martha continued. This is no plain old chicken. This be one of God's most beautiful creations. He is fancy, child, and that's the way of it. All who were gathered there rejoiced in Fancy's beauty. I believe you have this coming, child, old Martha said as she held out the new white organdy cap. Your family believes you have earned this well, and I agree. Not only have you given good and faithful care to your flock of chickens, but you have also raised one of the finest peacocks I ever did see. Standing proudly amidst the gathering, Naomi held Fancy in her arms. She had learned many things that day. And although no one ever quite knew how Fancy came to be hatched by Henny, it was never questioned. Plainly, it was a miracle, and sometimes miracles are just plain fancy. It's one of my, I love, well, all our books are my favorite books. It just reminds me because we had peacocks in the trees growing up. And if you've ever heard a peacock, when we first moved in the house there, it sounded like someone was screaming in the trees. Peacocks kind of sound like humans when they call, but it wasn't. And we always learned just to ignore it, that it was just peacocks in the trees. They were wild peacocks, kind of fun. Okay, back to our riddle. Why was the broom late? Because it overswept. Get it? I miss you. I love you. Stay tuned for some fun science. Bye-bye, boys and girls. Hi, boys and girls. Welcome back. Today we're going to make something fun. It's called moon dough. Now, actually, I don't even need my glasses because I'm not reading. All you'll need are 2 ingredients. Some hair conditioner, which it looks like I need, and some cornstarch. So I have my ingredients already here. So I have my cornstarch and my conditioner. I got the cheap conditioner at the store. This was 99 cents. It's Stater Brothers. So you need a cup of cornstarch. Just dump it into the bowl. And a 1/2 cup of conditioner. Once again, dump it into the bowl. Now, if you want to make more, you just do 2 cups of conditioner. 2 cups of cornstarch and 1 cup of conditioner. It's a 2-to-1 ratio. If you want less, you do a 1/2 cup of cornstarch and a 1/4 cup of conditioner. Whatever you want to make. Now I'm mixing it up. You'll notice it's going to make my fingers messy. It's also going to make your counter, my breadboard, messy. So I'm going to continue mixing it up. I have the, what flavor is this? Pomegranate Bliss. So the reason I bought it is I like the color. I wanted something kind of pink. So we'll see what happens when we mix it together with the cornstarch. It's getting all over my fingers. That's okay. Kind of feels good. Something. Get my frustrations out. If I have any frustrations, I can just squeeze them out. Now it's starting to stick together more. It's coming off my hands. Let's see if it'll stick together. Now, if I find it's being too crumbly, like that, I might put a little more conditioner in. If it's too sticky, I'll put a little more cornstarch in. But I'm still gonna mix it all together. I think it needs a little more conditioner. I made a batch before this and it had too much conditioner, so it was too sticky, so now I'm doing the opposite. Oh, I got hair on my nose. Probably should put my hair up, right? Okay, this is getting better. Now, okay. I'm gonna pause it, wash my hands, and show you what my final product is. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, all done, and here it is, my moon dough. See, it sticks together. Love it. Nice, you can't tell really too much. It's pink. And then I made one from the kiwi lime conditioner. Also 99 cents. Ooh, and this one's been sitting for a while, so it's nice and cool. You can make it into shapes if you want. You can break it apart real easy. Kind of crumbly when you break it apart, but just stick it together. You can make a sphere, maybe a square out of this one, whatever you want. Now I haven't had it that long, so I don't know if it dries out. I would put it in a baggie so it doesn't dry out, or you don't want your dog or your little brother or sister to get it. I don't think it will really hurt them that much, but nobody really wants to eat conditioner. There, I made a cube. Looks like a big marshmallow. You can make maybe a snow person. Let's see. Small head. And let's go to the top. This probably would be a great thing to do outside as well. There's my snow person sitting on a cube. Okay, make some fun shapes. Show me, look, as I'm talking to you. Now it's not slimy, it just breaks. But instead of, when you pull it apart, it just comes apart. It's a fun activity. Miss you, I love you. I'll see you soon. Bye, boys and girls.